very pleasant good afternoon and welcome friends to West Indian Today. I'm yours truly, your host and host, Imran Ahmad, and it is indeed my proud honor to be coming into your homes through the means of your television sets and also through the means of ITV Gold. We want to say thank you to the ITV Gold chairman and also chairman of Parekh Worldwide Media, Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parekh, and also a very special thank you to the staff and management of ITV Gold, Mr. Ravi Kumar, and everyone as well. And as always, it's our delight and our good fortune to present to you the very best of the Indo-Caribbean and also the South Asian diaspora here in North America, in which we touch upon, when we talk about the Indo-Caribbean diaspora, we touch on a great variety of people who represent the diaspora, who make up the diaspora here in North America and their in the different variations. And today it's all about a person who basically brings to you a sense of motivation through the means of one of his recent publications, and also through that motivation as well has also transcended in the form of a voice that is basically beseeching people to in some sense take a slice out of life, as we are talking about a book that is known as Slices of Life by the president of the Caribbean Voice, Mr. Annan Boodram, who will be talking about this book, but he joins with me on deck today for the second time, and I want to say welcome to him. Good to have you back.
Thank you, Imran. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. My pleasure as always, and always it's a great honor to be in conversation with anyone representing the Caribbean Voice. And I want to commend the Caribbean Voice for all their works, actually, in terms of suicide prevention. And one of the ways that we've been a voice recently, I believe, is actually through a program on social media, which, as we know, social media, I mean, it's actually very relevant for all generations as well. And so it's imperative that we use that forum to be the voice and also try to see how best we can prevent suicide. And one of the ways we do so is actually with a program known as the Mind-Body Connection.
Yes.
That's every Monday. So first of all, I would like for you to talk a little bit about that program, as well as any updates on behalf of the Caribbean Voice you think our viewers ought to know.
Well, spreading information, dispelling myths, empowering people.
Right.
Is done at many levels.
Correct.
But as an organization that is limited in so many ways, you have to take things one step at a time. So we have been using the media, traditional and non-traditional, for years, but we have not actually launched out on our own until we came up with this program, which actually was possible because we were offered time on one of the local studios, but we had bits and pieces of problems. So now we're trying to put together our own equipment and our own studio to be able to do it. Mind-body connection, because mental health, and both abuse and suicide are mental health related. Mental health goes together with physical health. And therefore, we thought of a program that was going to focus on mental health, but also bring in physical health to show the dynamics and the relationships between them. I mean, for example, somebody who suffers from a fatal illness can get into depression.
Correct.
And depression is the step next to suicide. So you become depressed, you become suicidal, you may end up doing well, the thing is that they use the word commit, but We're trying to say commit connotes a crime. You know, like he committed a murder.
Correct.
Or he committed a robbery. Suicide is not a crime, even though their countries, I mean, Guyana, for example, still has attempted suicide as a crime, but it really is not a crime. So we try to refrain from using the word suicide, so the person dies by suicide.
Right.
So yes, we want to be able to bring that connection in all the varieties. So we started off with things like, last Monday, for example, we dealt with self-esteem. We've talked about abuse, depression, all sorts of things. And now we're beginning to move into physical, because next month we're going to be focusing on cancer, the physical as well as the mental health of it. We're happy that the program has been well received. The first program was on the second Monday in November. It is still being viewed. It's gone past 15,000 views. And every single one of them, people are still viewing them, which validates what we think, that the information is needed. Too many people don't know a lot about these things. And so as long as the information is used and is shared and is used and is shared, then it remains relevant. And that's the whole idea, is to provide people information is power.
Exactly.
If you know, then it dictates how you act. And when what you know is misinformation or myths, then the actions would correspond. But if you know the facts and the reality, then you would know exactly what steps to take in terms of your own physical and mental health, in terms of observing and recognizing that somebody might be suicidal and knowing what you can do, in terms of knowing somebody who's been abused and knowing what you can do to help. And that brings in the other underlying principle for this. We hope that people will want to become partners, for want of a better word, in the process. Because when we started off this whole thing, our mantra was suicide prevention is everybody's business.
Correct.
Now we're going to say all of it is everybody's business, because you would want somebody to make it your business if you were the one suffering.
Right.
And therefore, if somebody else is suffering, it behoves you to make it your business as well.
Definitely. And I've got to say that what a wonderful title for the show, actually, on social media. I think that depression, suicidal thoughts, it all starts with a disconnect between the mind and body. And so hence, I mean, from there, that everything else falls into play. And for those of you who would like to, who are tuning into our program, we're encouraging you to be sure to tune into the session on behalf of the Caribbean Voice. We've listed it just right there on your screens. Be a part of a very informative program and interact with lots of people. Share your views and your thoughts as well. I was privileged to be a part of a few of the sessions. We spoke about domestic abuse. We spoke about so many other things as well. So feel free to weigh in your thoughts and suggestions. And when we talk about, preserving and protecting lives, I could recall, when I was the last time I was on the mind-body connection. I quoted a phrase by President Bill Clinton that every life is precious. We cannot afford to lose another life. And so in whatever way we can empower people through the means of social media, through the means of publication, it's imperative now that we do that. And also through the means of organizations like the Caribbean Voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And may I make the point
Sure.
that when we launched, the focus was Guyana, because
Right.
at that point, the World Health Organization had stated that Guyana had the highest suicide rate in the world. It did, but the figures they gave were a little bit higher than what they actually were. Today, we can say with certainty that there has been a tremendous decrease in suicide in Guyana. We have made a contribution to that, because before we were there was so much misinformation going around. One of the first things we faced was, if somebody wants to kill himself or herself, there's nothing you can do. And that is absolutely untrue, And so it works. If you get the information, if you act on it, you help yourself, you help others, you can save lives, you can empower people, you can prevent abuse. You can be a part of the process of making a difference.
As we are talking today, right, and as I mentioned earlier in the program, it's all about slices of life. Now, Mr. Annan Boodram, as I mentioned, he's the president of the Caribbean Voice, but also he's a motivational speaker, he's an educator, and for the Caribbean Voice, he's the media personnel. So many great things actually he represents. But this publication that I hold actually right here in my hands is actually, today we're focusing on the launch and also the release of actually Slices of Life. So Slices of Life, someone with so much of experience and so much of great wisdom. Give us an idea, Slices of Life, and what can a reader expect from it?
Well, let me start off by saying I've been an educator for more than 30 years.
Correct.
And most of those years I've taught English. I consider myself to be a linguist of sorts.
Right.
Writing is difficult. This book has been in the making for 15 years. I remember once bringing a writer to my school to talk to my students, and he said this book was rejected 69 times by publishers. It was on the attempt that he got someone to accept it. So writing is hard. And it's hard because the writer often know what you want to say, but putting all the ingredients together doesn't come easily. Sometimes you're sleeping and you jump up in the middle of the night, and I usually would have a pen or a paper because a thought comes to you in the writing though. Right. You're sitting somewhere in an audience and the thought comes to you and you write it down. So that being said, it's a collection of short stories. Each is different and unique, but each reflects an aspect of life. So the picture is that life is this whole, and each short story is a slice of, like a pie. Life is this pie, and each short story is a slice of that pie. It's a play on words, sort of. What can you expect in slices of life? Everything that you can find in a good book. There's horror, there's romance, there's suspense, there's entertainment, there's enlightenment. It challenges you. You want to argue with the book because you might disagree with things. It focuses on the journeys from India and Africa to the Caribbean and then to the United States. So there is information there that I will stick my neck out to say that a lot of people who are PIOs and NRIs would not know, because I did a tremendous amount of research for that book. So, and of course, ditto for those from Africa.
All right. So,
and then it deals with stuff like army life, like Hollywood. So many different facets of the reality that we go through. So it's all the elements of a good book, and it's so many facets of life as we know it. A young East Indian person from Guyana goes into the US Army, what are his experiences? They would have been totally different from the experiences of a typical American going into the Army. And so a lot of those kind of experiences, the Army only being one. And then the other thing is that it challenges tradition. It upturns ossified views. And in that respect, it talks about things like the caste system and the way women are treated, the traditional way in which women are treated. And it deals with the things that the Caribbean Voice deals with too. It talks about suicide. It talks about sexual abuse. It talks about domestic abuse. It brings all those elements into it.
But you touch upon many issues that sometimes end up to be quite controversial. For example, the caste system, and also the treatment of women. I think that in today's society, with women empowerment, kind of on the move, lots of women will definitely appreciate this. But the caste system, give us an idea. Where are we going actually with the caste system? Are we challenging the caste system in Slices of Life?
Yes, we are, and that is all I can say because I don't want to
give it away.
But all the characters in there are ordinary, average people.
Correct.
They go through these experiences that most of us actually go through that make us want to throw up our hands and give up.
Right.
But in every story, that protagonist overcomes.
Okay.
So yes, it is empowering.
Yes.
It tells you that if you stick it out, and it's not making a statement that is abstract.
Okay.
Because you often see people make these statements like, stay with it, things are going to get better. How do you know that? I mean, do you know the circumstances of the person? If you don't, then you can't really say that things are going to get better. Right. So what it does, it empowers. It doesn't just give the idea that if you stick it out, it empowers. What can you do?
To make it
How
better.
do you do it to make it better?
Correct.
And in that process also, some of those protagonists step outside of the comfort zone and outside of the traditional box. I'll give you an example. In one of the stories, the same one in the army, towards the end, there is a relationship where there is two women living together. It's a short relationship because one of them die. But in the context of an Indo-Caribbean community, there's the guy, and there is one wife is Muslim, the other one is Hindu. So it brings that into it, this sometimes confrontational kind of issue. And of course, you get the response, the traditional response of the community without understanding the context and the realities. Of course, the reader would.
Right.
But imagine that this is happening out there in the community. And all these people, without understanding all that transpired before to bring them to this moment, are going to respond, as people usually do, and give their views, which in effect is based on what I would say nothingness or ignorance, because you don't know. And judging, and that is where it is the issue of how do you judge.
Right, right.
You know? So, and that is only one of the many bits and pieces of non-conformity, non-traditional, outside the box kind of thing that it also deals with.
Okay, so two questions actually. Well, I'm going to come to that one in a few concerning what you just discussed. But earlier, you mentioned that an author, a fellow author, actually told you that before his book was published, he was rejected 69 times. And you also said that as an educator, you might have your thoughts together, but of course, to put things, down on paper, sometimes it's not the easiest task. And you said over a decade, 15 years in the making. Is this the first attempt to have the book published, or was there, attempts before and then it was rejected and then finally it's here?
I did send it to a couple of publishers, a number of publishers a few years ago, and they all rejected it.
Okay.
And at that point, I kind of had put it in the back burner.
Right.
But what motivated me to go to it again were two things. One, that it has become a means of helping us to raise funds for the work of the Caribbean Voice. In fact, through this book, I've already been able to donate to the Caribbean Voice over $1,000.
Very good. Most commendable.
The second thing is, over the last few years, maybe a decade or so, or a little bit more, self-publishing is becoming a norm.
Right.
People write something, rather than having to send it to publish after, and get rejected. You pay a few dollars to a publisher who does it for you. They offer you all sorts of package. You buy the package you want. You get your book out there. Of course, the flip side to that, and I know this because I'm also a book reviewer and I've received all sorts of books, is that people will write anything. I mean, the mistakes, the language, the stories, but they pay and they get it published, so it's out there, it's published.
Definitely.
So I decided that I wasn't going to go through that process of getting rejected again because I wanted the book out there. What I've told people is this. It's a good read. I'm not saying that you may necessarily like everything because, like I said, it teases, it challenges, it might put you in a position where you want to actually argue with it. Because like the ways people would argue with the TV sometimes.
Correct.
But I've told people, if you don't think it's a good read, after you finish, touch base with me, I'll give you back your money.
Well, so that was actually going to be my next question. Now, for millennials that are out there that will read this book, and I want to come to in just a few moments, maybe in this part of your answer, you can probably let us know how one can go about getting the book. But for millennials who will read it, as you said, lots of things, they might question certain things because, they don't really know the nuances, the history behind why certain things are, why it's basically dictated in the book here. But anyone who decides to argue or, wants to debate with you, will you be willing to go ahead and give your explanation or in a healthy conversation with people?
Absolutely, but I also want to suggest that if you're reading stuff there that you disagree with,
right,
a lot of that stuff I didn't know before I wrote that book.
Right.
I did a lot of research, and that is one of the many, many things that authors who want to write good stories have to do. So do your research. And as I said, nobody, no author writes a book so that everybody agrees with what is written.
Correct.
The idea is for you to challenge, to interact.
Right.
And to, in this case, to do your research to see what else comes up. And of course, as an educator, I have been able to put my students in touch with authors because they do book reviews as one of the things. And if you have questions you want to ask, we've done that. And I'm easily accessible. Anybody wants to touch base with me for us to talk about it, that's fine. But I'll say this also. I've received quite a number of feedback. Every single one of them have been positive.
Very good.
Every single one of them.
That this has helped the Caribbean Voice. It's raised at least over $1,000
Already,
for the
yes.
many projects and programs. So first of all, what I would like to basically ask you is that one who wishes to contribute to the Caribbean Voice actually by purchasing it, how can I go about doing so? And also moving forward, how else? I mean, in terms of, you mentioned some of the Caribbean Voice and also empowerment. So some of the stories that what are some of the stories you will find empowering, for readers that will get them active with the Caribbean Voice?
Okay, let's start with one. This young girl comes to the United States backtrack.
Right.
And in that process is sexually abused, which is something that has happened quite a lot with young ladies who have come backtrack. And then ends up with an uncle who reflects a lot of people in terms of a duplicity, that he's a successful businessman, very prudish and very traditional at home. But guess what? He has money, so he goes out there and he plays the field. She's faced with a situation where she can't fit into that.
Right.
And so she meets a friend, and guess who the friend is? The friend owns an escort company. So the friend offers her to become an escort, gives her the money to repay her uncle, because backtrack is a lot of money.
Correct.
Of course, the uncle lifted high heaven, because in his mind, escort, that is akin to prostitution.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to tell people whether it was or it isn't. It's for you to find out. But in the end, she was able to go to college through that job. She was able to realize that there is so much ossification in the community. That is the one that deals with the way women are treated. So in the end, she becomes a champion for women. Having been all the way down there, because before she came, her mother had died and she had nobody and so on. And this guy who was doing the backtrack business is somebody who had gone to Guyana, had seen her, had liked her, promised to marry her when she comes here, but never told her that she had a wife, he had a wife and children over here.
Right.
So
that happens quite often, actually.
Exactly, and she found that when she came out. So, it's in so many ways, the stories are grounded in reality.
And as he rightfully mentioned it, that it's very relevant. Many people can connect with it. There's so much of experiences that actually he shares in this book, and of course short stories, stories relevant for many people. So we're encouraging you now. Once again, we'd like to ask you to let people know actually how they can go about doing so, and of course how they can go about purchasing it and contributing to the Caribbean Voice. And also, as we are basically wrapping up with our discussion in a few moments, anything empowering that you would like to encourage our viewers on behalf of the Caribbean Voice? Because, I mean, as the tagline for the organization, suicide ought to be everyone's business. So anything empowering you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Okay, you go on barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com, you search for books, then you put in Slices of Life by Annan Boodram and it comes up. And there's a hardcover, there's a soft cover, and there's a Kindle edition. So you can buy what fits your budget. A number of people, especially friends and people who have known me, have ordered it direct from me because they wanted an autographed copy. If you order from Amazon or Barnes or Noble, you pay the cost plus shipping and handling. If you get it from me, that shipping and handling becomes less, actually. Plus, you have it autographed. So if anybody wants a signed copy, you contact me directly. I'm on Facebook. My contact information is over the place. My phone is 646-461-0574. You can email me, caribvoice@aol.com. You can call me. You can contact me on Facebook. And we can take it from there. In terms of contributing to the Caribbean Voice, you can contact myself, you can contact Shanaz, you can contact Hiram. We have a Facebook page, you can go on the Facebook page. There's so many ways in which you can contact us. We're doing so many things right now, in fact, that every cent we get is important, but we have gone past the stage where we go out there and actively solicit donations because you're competing with 1,000 other NGOs.
Right.
So we focus more now on raising our own funds, but no matter how much you raise, it still is needed. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you why I say that. One, we're launching a national domestic violence campaign across Guyana. That alone is going to cost thousands of dollars. We participated recently in a Caribbean youth conference, a Caribbean conference on youth violence that was organized by the USAID, and we pitched a project for a school that we identified that is a high needs school, very high needs school. And so that project is about $30,000. We're going to start implementing that project. We have actually started because we've already sent some stuff to Guyana. And stuff like that. Those are only two of the very many things we're doing. So if you want to help financially, we would love it, we would welcome it. But we're not going to go out there and actively solicit donations because it's not worth it.
With that, it is that time as we do sign off. This has truly been my pleasure and my honor being with each and every one of you. We do hope you enjoyed your time spent with us.